You don't go and ask a barber if I need a haircut.
Exactly.
He's going to say yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So don't fall trap to those ads that come on.
Yes. Commitment, hard work, persistence in whatever you do.
Imagine a boy growing up in the vibrant cities of Panji during the 1970s and 80s. Amidst the rich culture and scenic beauty, this boy, Pandurang Kamat, found his spark of interest in technology. From his early days at Mustifund and then Progress High School to excelling at Goa College of Engineering, GEC, Pandurang's academic journey was marked by curiosity and brilliance. He topped in computer engineering and set his sights on the United States for higher education. At Rutgers University, one of America's oldest universities and most prestigious institutions, he pursued a PhD in computer science. His research focused on security and privacy protocols in wireless networks, and he contributed to the Orbit program, a wireless research testbed funded by the National Science Foundation, which won the Alexander Schwarzkopf Prize for Technological Innovation. Dr. Kamat's journey was not without challenges. During the late 1990s and early 2000s, he co-started a company that was affected by the dot-com bubble burst. Despite these setbacks, he demonstrated resilience, securing roles at Bell Labs and HP Labs, where he worked on award-winning projects. Dr. Kamat returned to India in 2012. He joined Persistent Systems as an individual contributor and rose to the role of Chief Technology Officer, building a robust foundation for the company's research and innovation programs. Today I have the privilege of chatting with Dr. Pandurang Kamat, who has blended academic excellence, innovative research, and entrepreneurial spirit. His journey from Panjim to Rutgers and then to Persistent Systems is a testament to his dedication and resilience. Please join me in welcoming. Welcome, Pandurang.
Thank you. And thank you for all the kind words that you said.
So, you grew up in Panjim. You went to local schools. How was it like growing up in the 1970s, 80s in Goa?
It was very good, actually. Life was simpler. As my children still tell me every day that schooling was simpler. We didn't have as much syllabus, apparently, as much as they have, and so forth. So things were simple, and we had very good teachers, actually, right from Mustifund, where the foundation was laid first to fourth standard in Marathi medium, and then in Progress High School, very dedicated teachers who taught us well, who kind of made us what we are today. Right? So it was good.
Yeah. So 1970s and 80s, when you think about the global, this is the first time when the PCs came into existence, right? And you have done computer engineering and then PhD. But when was the first time you used a computer?
The story goes that when I just finished 10th summer holidays, we used to normally do something in Balbhavan. Right? That year, and I think perhaps it is the only year where right? So it was chance, right? That they decided to hold a introduction to computers course at Goa University for people who have just finished 10th standard. And because there was nothing else to do, it was interesting. I went there. There were a few other people that were there, about I think maybe 20 of us who were in that program. That's when we first saw computers. That's when Professor Kamat and the team introduced us to what it can do, right? What is programming? What is logic? There was also computer games after the classes were over. So that is the first time. And again, even at these were standalone computers. It was later, I think, post 12th standard or early engineering, where again one evening. The major internet was with the Goa University at the time. They had this satellite dish. And one evening he asked me to say, have you seen the internet? So we had not seen the internet really at the time, right? So I went there. I remember him doing this. I'm standing there and opening the first browser, Mosaic, and showing a web page loading from somewhere else and all of that. So that is how the introduction was. And this is another very important point, that even though later when we were part of the engineering GC, Goa University, and not only Professor Kamat, but there was a Professor Bhatt from the physics department, I believe, him, and there were other faculty who opened the doors of Goa University to us after regular hours for us to come and really leverage the infrastructure that only they had. So that inter-agency collaboration, there was no official protocol to allow that. There was no official request, just a bunch of students asking and they accommodating us. So that really helped us not only understand this stuff more, but even things like applying to US universities and all of that was done on shared computers, where we got one computer, 5 of us applying after 10 p.m. Till around 2 a.m. we used to wait there and do this and then come home. So that is very important.
It is very interesting because such efforts from institutions to reach out to schooling students back then, when you might have not even heard of what computers were.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And that brings me to that an important question, because when you went into GEC, normally a person at that point would want to do core branches like mechanical or electrical, civil. That's what most people would have advised, if you had gone to ask someone, what should I do?
Yeah.
Right. So what was that propelled you towards?
So actually this course, right, once I did this course, it kind of felt that this is something I understood. This is something that then came a little more easier to me than physics, chemistry, maths, or some of the other stuff. And I'm also somewhat spatially challenged, if you will. So the mechanical engineering and civil engineering courses in my first year, I struggled quite a lot. So this was the one thing that came easier. So it was a no-brainer.
So how was life at GEC then? Like, what was your experience at those 4 years? What do you remember?
So GC was a very good period because, and I stayed in the hostel from second year onwards. So it was a lot of camaraderie, a lot of friends made for life. We studied, but also did a lot of extracurricular things, right? Debates, drama, competitions, things like that. The one thing though that I want to highlight, right? And right now, for example, my son is in 12th. He's also thinking about what he should be doing and whether I'll get into this, whether I'll get into that. And a lot of students do this. And people look at people like me and whatever introduction you gave and say that, okay, that is something, maybe this person is born smart and all these things. But it is not that case. So there are a lot of struggles. The point is to actually overcome them. So in GC, for example, first of all, I almost didn't get in because my PCM was not, I got in, but I got into a different branch, which I would have struggled with. I didn't get into computer engineering. So I spent a week doing something else. And then I got in a second round after some people left. So I was ready to do something else, to find a different path to become eventually a computer engineer, rather than do other branches of engineering where I would have struggled. But after getting in also the first year, you have to do all these courses. You have to do courses that pertain to civil engineering, engineering graphics. So there also it was a struggle, to the point of even failing in a subject, right? Engineering graphics. And then suddenly you have gone through school and you have done reasonably well. School that time was not very, very complex and you were doing well. You have never failed. And then suddenly you think, what is happening here? Right? And you're not understanding anything. So at that time, I didn't have all this wisdom of looking back. But the point was, and there are friends who helped me understand it and all of that. But the point is, you get out of that dip that you're in, right? You get out of that hole and you just put one step in front of the other and you come out. You don't give up. But after that first year is crossed, then it was all your branch, computer engineering courses. Those went relatively smoothly.
And you topped there because if at all there was a gold medal that was sponsored at that point, you would have received a gold medal. You were
Yes.
the topper of that.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So this also brings out another lesson that, at sometimes these students might fail in certain exams, or you mentioned you failed.
Yes.
And at that point you really feel, nothing will go right.
Absolutely.
Right. And then there is that hope. And these stories like this, the having overcome a challenge back in the day, and then excelling so much that you come top of the class, right? This is inspiring, and I think a lot of people will take some lesson from.
That's the reason I'm sharing this. I have not shared this publicly, but the important point there is whether even if you don't get in, even the getting your branch that you need, sometimes you get disappointed. You don't get what you want. There was another person here with me, someone whom I know who did not eventually make it into engineering. They went down the I think Bachelor of Computer Application, then MCA path, and today they are a peer almost in another organization, very large organization. They are doing computers. So the key lesson here is there are many different paths to success, right? And it is even more true today than it was back then, because back then also there were more limited paths. Today, if you see each field that you're looking at, if you can't pursue this, you can pursue that. So the analogy I like to give when I talk to my own son about his things when we are discussing this is, think about it like, okay, I have to get to Srinagar from here. If the Mumbai train leaves and you are left at the station, okay, go via Indore, right, and get to Rajasthan maybe, or Gujarat somewhere, and then take the next bus to wherever you want to go, then take another flight. As long as you are heading north, right, you should be fine. You will get there. And there are many, many, many more routes today to get what you want than this. And the mission in life is not about how much rank I'm getting in 12th or what branch I'm doing and how much percentage I'm getting. The mission is eventually to do fulfilling work, have financial stability, build something that gives you happiness and those kind of things, right? And grow in your career.
Yeah.
And there are more ways than one to do it. And it's not just one example, because one person can get lucky. All around me in my peer group today, I see people who have taken multitude of paths to get where they are.
Yeah. And post GC, you directly decided to do a master's.
Yes.
Or was there a period where you did a job?
No, I spent 6 months teaching at GC, and that was only because back then we didn't have so much information available up front, right? So the only time we learned about what is this education in US and all this thing was through that at 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. This at Goa University looking on the computers, right? Because we didn't have all that information handy, and some of our seniors had gone. But by the time we got all that info, that year's deadlines had passed. So then 1 year, me and some friends who were applying, we spent doing different things here. So I taught at Goa University, at GC for 6 months. And then I got admission, so I left.
So how was the process like back in the day? Is it like the same as what it is today?
Yeah, more or less. I think there are some changes now, but again, you have to go through certain exams. And that time there were far more exams. There was GRE, there was computer science GRE also that we answered. Some universities wanted that. And again, one more interesting anecdote there is, how do you get the on-ground info, right? So on the website, you got some information,
Yeah.
and it's much less than what was today. But then one of my seniors, this Felix Fernandez, is from, I think, Kasaulim or somewhere thereof, right? So he had spent 6 months or a year, and he had come back on a short break. So I reached out to him, and I remember we sat. I went and picked him up. We sat in a cafe in Margao, and we kept eating and ordering coffee. And I asked him about 1,000 questions, me and a friend, and we noted all those down. So Felix was our source of information of what actually happens when you land, and how does the university life happen on the ground. What challenges you face, how did you navigate that. So for us, it was that 3 hours and many masala dosas and
You have
coffees.
to take a lot of effort. Today we get it at the click
You
of
get
a
a
button.
click of a button.
There are so many influencers out there who would
Yes.
speaking right outside, like sitting in their college dorms, speaking to everyone.
Correct.
Right. And yet there are some of us who do not really take as much effort. So I want to just bring this out to the audience, that that effort of even that 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. in the night, going out there after full days of college is extraordinary. Like not many people might have done that.
Yeah, you don't have a choice, right? That's the only place the information is available.
Yeah.
So you're thankful that they are actually letting you in there.
Yeah.
So
No, but what I want to bring out is there might have been few others who chose to go back and sleep
yeah,
or party and not be there with you. Yeah, I just wanted to
sure.
bring that to the audiences. So now you're in the US. So what was it like there?
So, see, one of the other things in the US is when it's the first time most people, Indian students, are on their own really. Because even when you're in the hostel, you're getting the money sent, everything is taken care of in the hostel and all of that, right? But there you have to, if you don't want to be a financial burden on parents to fund your education, you have to find a scholarship or find some on-campus legally allowed
TA or-
employment. Yeah, either a teaching assistantship or even actually you're allowed to do certain, not everybody gets a teaching or a research assistantship. So you can work on campus. People work in the library or in the computer lab and things like that, right? That's a legally allowed to get some offset on this. So that is another experience a lot of children, kids who go there, it's a new one where you are independent. You are managing the responsibility of working and your studies, right? And you got to be accountable to both. Because if you don't do this, it's a proper job. So if you're not doing it well, of course, it's not 8 hours. There are limited hours that you do that.
Part-time.
But you have to be accountable to what you're going to deliver to a third party. So far, it's your studies and whether you do well or not. Now you're doing that and you're balancing. So that then financial understanding, money coming in, money going out, how do you manage, how do you spend, it's all decisions that you make. And so that, and you also meet, particularly for us there, that time in Goan colleges, there were some, other Indian state students who were part of this, but today it's much more. Back then it was a smaller group. So here you are exposed to and make friends with a lot of different people from all over India, from other countries. So those are good experiences. Yeah.
So you mentioned about jobs, right? What did you do to?
So in my master's, I was a teaching assistant for a C++ or something. But before I got that job, I was not getting I'd applied, I was not getting, I had applied for 2-3 jobs as computer lab assistant, also in the library to stock the books. And then finally I got this, so I got a full scholarship through that. So it took about 2-3 weeks of trying, printing resumes, going out there. Eventually you get lucky.
Yeah.
So did that.
So what about the startup experience
Yeah.
that you had there?
So when I was about a year into the program, we had put up some resumes for summer internships and all of that. And this one hedge fund manager who was in New York City, he reached out to a friend and me, and through, I think it was monster.com or one of those job sites. He wanted to start a new product company in financial services to, I don't know if many of you remember companies like E-Trade, or today here we have Zerodhas of the world, right? Back then, Ameritrade, E-Trade were companies in the US, which would allow you to trade directly with stocks on the exchange. So he understood that market, but he didn't understand technology. He wanted to work with somebody, and he reached out to two of us, met us in a cafe, explained the idea, and he didn't have any office or anything. It just would be starting in his home, and we were allowed to do internship at that time. So while we were studying, my friend and I decided to take the plunge and start this with him. And we had a small stake in the company and all of that. And so we honestly didn't know what we were doing. So we knew somewhat of a technology, but we didn't understand the financial world. So we worked together, we built it out, we used to assemble hardware, set up the tables, write the code. Then we had to raise funds. So we would go into these meetings where it's the three of us is the whole company. So instead of going alone, he would take us along also. So we bought some loose fitting suits, cheap suits, and went into those meetings also and pretended to know what we were doing. So we raised some funds. Then the 2001 market crash happened, right? And that basically meant all our customers dried up, funds dried up, and we ran out of runway for the company. And we were on a visa, so we had to figure out what to do next. So went to job interviews, job fairs, did a bunch of interviews, and got lucky. So there's an interesting element here, right? Which is nobody really knows what is going to happen. So you can't plan for everything. So if that startup had succeeded, market crash would not have happened. We would have had a different path. It failed. So again, it was a struggle for a couple of months, a lot of rejections in interviews and all of that. And then something else clicks. But the way this clicked is the technology we had used there was relevant to this, which was a networking company and Bell Labs. It is again the ability to not, keep your eyes and ears open, have a peripheral vision to connect the dots, as a lot of people, smarter people than me have said, right? It's very important to have an ability to connect the dots. So in this instance, the company that I was interviewing with at a job fair, I was one of hundreds of people who was coming and giving resumes. So he was asking some questions. So I asked him, what do you guys work on? They had an award-winning router product at Bell Labs. And this particular division was responsible for building an interface to configure that product. And the way they used to do it is open a command line thing and write some commands to it. And we had just built a financial services product that had nothing to do with this business. But a new technology was emerging at that time, which was called XML, which is common now. So we had used that to share data between our front end, back end, and send data across. So something clicked, and I just said to him that, why are you doing this command line? You could build a front end, and you could use XML to standardize the data, send it across. And that sentence resonated with him because that's how he had been thinking, and it was so new technology that others had not been thinking. That clicked, and that I got the job, right? So I think the other thing we have to see is sometimes you take something from one field and bring it to a different element altogether. A more famous example of this is, of course, Steve Jobs, who learned calligraphy early on in his undergrad. And that understanding of aesthetics and design is why Apple has become so successful. And there are many others who have done the same, right? So yeah, that's the story with the company.
Nice. The dot-com bubble, as you talked about. So when you're building something new, there is always that hope. No, you're building towards something, and then suddenly this whole world comes crashing down. So there is that you're dreaming something, and then the world doesn't allow you to see that dream for a while.
Yeah.
What was your mindset like at that point, and how did you?
So I don't think it was as dramatic about the dream coming down as much as what happens next, right? Because I don't have a job and you are on a visa. You got to either find a job in 30 days or 60 days or head home. And then that was the main thing. But again, the important part there is, right, I think I would have answered probably like 20 interviews at the time and 19 rejections and 1 acceptance. So it is not glamorous. But you just have to do it.
Keep hitting it.
You have to keep knocking on doors and doing it, right? So it is not like somebody just waiting there and saying with red carpet that you'll get it. So that's basically it. So resilience, as we talk about as the theme sometime, is just about showing up every day and doing what is needed. Not thinking about why should I have to do this? Why isn't something better happening to me or anything else? You just show up on time before anybody and just keep working.
The input might not always show you the output.
It won't until it does, and then things change, right? So until then, the first 19 attempts you have to keep doing.
Keep hitting. Nice. So after Bell Labs, what happened?
So
Bell Labs.
There was about 2.5 years, I think, and there was also a lot of layoffs and all that happening because that 2000 crash kind of had a lot of repercussions. So I had parallelly then wanted to do PhD, so I had started part-time. And then eventually I switched after about 2.5 years at Bell Labs. I switched full-time to the PhD program at Rutgers. And that again was something that I personally wanted to do. And I also want to bring up a point here, right? So sometimes everybody is not same coming from a similar background. In some ways I was privileged enough to be able to try all these things because I didn't have the financial responsibilities at home. They were taken care of on their own. So others don't have that luxury at times. So they have responsibilities that they have to do. So you have a much narrower focus. You can't afford to fail. You can't afford to experiment as much. So it is not to say that people should pursue the same paths, right? Because you may not have the luxury. But the key element here is that don't be disheartened about just one path not working out. And don't think that even if you pursue something. So when I did the fintech company, it was not like I might have thought that this is what I'll do for 10 years, but life has other things. Or in Bell Labs, great company, people used to spend their entire career there once they got a job there, right? But that may not be your path. So again, don't worry that something is not panning out the way you are expecting. There are domino effects. Each time if you learn something new, you can actually leverage it elsewhere. And that's the important part. So after that, I joined the PhD program. I think I spent about 4.5 years there. And then I joined a search company, ask.com and IC Search and Media. So that's been the journey. I spent again 5 years or so there. In 2012, I left that job because we wanted to move back, and we moved back to India.
So you went from starting up to a
Big company.
to a job,
Yeah.
a big company, then doing a PhD program, going back to academia,
Yes,
and then coming out of there and again joining the workforce.
correct.
Right.
And one other element here is that each of these work that I had to do had no resemblance to the other.
Oh.
Right. So again, I meet when we hire a lot of freshers from engineering colleges in my current company. Right. I see a year, 2 year into it, many people box themselves that, oh, I'm a Java developer. Right. So if there is a .NET opportunity, no, I'm a Java developer. Very early on in the career, they're said, I don't. It's either they say that either it is they consider some other things beneath them, or sometimes they are concerned or anxious that they may not be very good at that because they are very good at this. So they prefer to stay in the comfort zone. So that is another important advice, right? Whether in technology or any other job, if you see around you, things are changing so rapidly that I don't think our kids' generation will be doing the same thing throughout their life. So if you look at our parents' generation, most of them spent they were good at something, they got a job, and they had long careers in that one company. In our generation, already people on an average have around 10 odd companies that they spend their career in, right? I think it's going to become even more changeable going forward. Because some tracks are just not going to exist. You may start on that and it may not exist by the time you are 2/3 the way in your career. So not being able to, of course, I didn't have a whole lot of choice, but retrospectively, I would advise that don't be worried that you are being asked to do something else. The focus should be, am I learning something? Am I growing? And am I becoming more valuable on the longer horizon, right? And the diversity of skills that you gain by doing different things is also then becomes an advantage to you. As you look for, after 10, 12 years, if you have done 2-3 types of things, you're more valuable to your next opportunity.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, and often it happens even with me. Like I identify as a teacher. That labeling sometimes stops you from exploring anything other than that, right?
Yeah.
And I've been trying to do that in the past few, and I've been forced to do that, I guess, with all the news of AI and everything coming around.
Yeah.
You're like, what's my future like? And
Yeah.
then let me not be a teacher for a while, and let's look at it from a different point of view, right? And the did you always want to come back to workforce after PhD, or?
Yes. My thing was more industry oriented than academia, always. So
You
sure.
always wanted to be back.
Yes, yes. So
now you come back to Goa, come back to India, Goa. You join Persistent Systems as an individual contributor. And you have now spent how many years?
it's been 12 years.
12 years.
Yeah, this September, and I think I'll complete.
So what was that whole journey like?
So
Maybe before till you became the CTO.
Yeah, I think first of all, this was the first services company, that digital services company I worked for. It was product and research. So there is again a track change, so to speak, right? So there was a lot of apprehension. What will I actually do here? At how the rhythm of these companies is very different from other companies. So that took a while to happen. But first 2 years I was in the individual contributor role. Then we had a new CTO come in at the time, and that's when I started working closely with him. And the way I saw it was there were some things that I was good at. So you have to create opportunities with your strengths. And we didn't have a very wide or deep R&D and innovation center at the time. So we floated that idea and how that would fit in the broader perspective. And then along with his help, I built it out. And the one, again, another element here I want to tell people about is empowering yourself. So this person being based in US, he needed to have somebody here who would run the day-to-day operations, think about the strategy and planning with him, um, hire the right kind of people, build out the labs, interface with all the business leaders here. And there was nobody who asked me or my peers, like, would you like to do this, right? So I just stepped up and started doing it. There was no change in my role. There was no change in my compensation. Neither was something I was asking at the time as well. Because this whole thing about strategic planning, budget planning, hiring the right teams, figuring out how ROI will come, doing this with somebody who's seen this in a larger company, is able to operate, is a whole learning experience. But the other thing it does is that it prepares you to play that role, right? If you are just stepping up, raising your hand and doing work that is beyond your this, it prepares you to finally, when that opening comes up, you are the best suited candidate because you've been doing that for a while. So in that sense, about 4 or 5 years into that, when there was again a change of guard, he moved on to other things. I was asked to step in and run the unit.
So, do you think your initial experience with startups or taking initiatives, even in colleges, doing these extracurriculars, does that have a lot of to play with what you developed over the years? And
So I would say yes and no, in the sense that doing some of these activities, right, helps make you comfortable with those activities. So you're not like learning them when you're older, which is harder to learn, and you're less afraid of being ridiculed or failing when you're trying this in college. If you're starting cold at the age of 30, 35, in doing this, you're going to become more anxious and more conservative about it. But beyond that, past is past. The only thing that matters is whether you may have all these credentials in the past. If you're able to stand up, raise your hands, take accountability, not just for activities, but outcomes, and then deliver on that. And I will also say this, sometimes even if you fail in delivering the outcome, but if your efforts had been sincere and in the right spirit and with the hard work, and that is seen, failure doesn't automatically mean that you are out or something, right? In some circumstances. But it's very important to actually deliver and not rest on what I did in the past. That doesn't work in the industry. Yeah.
so you need to step up and
Yes.
up your game.
Absolutely.
All the
Yeah. But the key takeaway here is a lot of us wait for, I will work hard in my current job. Then one day somebody will see that, oh, he's or she is doing a good job, will promote me. Then I will do that next job. I would say flip the script, right? Just do the higher job. Take on your manager's responsibilities, some of them with their consent, and start doing those. You are learning with their help. They are still accountable for them. You are learning something new, and you are readying yourself when the opportunity comes. Who better than your peers to take on the role? That flipping the script and flipping that mindset will serve you more than anything else.
automatically puts you ahead of.
Yes, then you don't have to ask,
Yeah.
right? That, hey, promote me or something.
So right now you are a CTO for 5 years now.
5 years, yeah.
So what is your role right now and what do you do?
So over the years, we have laid a foundation for Persistent to have a very strong R&D and innovation team. in diverse areas. So the key function of this team is to figure out what is coming down the line, right, ahead of time, ahead of our competition, ahead of the rest of my colleagues who are operating on the business as usual, and their focus is on that, to ensuring that happens. We look at, so what is the next opportunity that we can leverage on in technology, and also perhaps what are some risks that may come our way if we don't change the way we do certain things, understand it fully, and actually build things with it so that we can show what it means to our business and our customers' business, and then scale it within the company. So that is the charter, and it's a global R&D innovation charter, and very interestingly, 50% or so of the Persistent CTO team is based out of Goa. And these are folks who are from colleges all around here, who have lived and studied in the same schools.
GC, PCC.
All of these colleges, right? And Goa University and Shiroda, RIT Shiroda, a lot of these folks, and they are doing absolutely world-class work. In fact, the whole center here in Goa does world-class work right from here. So I just want to also leave with another line that has stayed with me for a long time since I read about it. This is a line from a professor in one of the US universities. He talks about, and the people who understand a bit of geometry will know these terms, a little bit of slope is far advantageous to you than the y-intercept. So what it means is, y-intercept, if you see a line on a xy axis, is where you begin in some ways, right? And the slope is how sharp and how fast that line is increasing upwards. What he was trying to say through that is, we all come from different circumstances. You go to a certain school and you can look at it as, oh, I didn't go to a better school, or I didn't go to a better college. So that's your y-intercept, where you are, starting point, where you are. But that only takes you so far. You can actually outtrace and outpace and eliminate that disadvantage if your slope is higher. You will grow faster than anybody else. And slope for us means commitment, hard work, persistence in whatever you do. So if you bring that, which is in your control, it's not in your control what rank you get in a NEET or JEE or what law school or what business school you get in. But once these qualities are in your hands, and that can eliminate the other advantage.
So as long as the slope is positive and it is...
And the sharper the slope is, the faster you'll grow.
Faster.
Yeah.
Exponential.
Yes.
So now, since we're talking about persistence, you mentioned a lot of colleges from Goa. I'm pretty sure people listening back home or some of them in the audience would also, if they are from colleges, they would be like, they would have this question, like what is persistent looking at in an early graduate?
So I would expand it and say not just persistent. We are in the tech space. So any company that leverages technology or is operating on technology, and I would actually put this into any industry in general, right? No matter where you go. What we are looking for is people who are hungry to learn, especially as you come out of college, because there is still a pretty wide gap across industries, mechanical, civil, electronics, whatever, between our academic education and rigor and how you operate in the industry. There are gaps. Now, you can debate on how big the gap is. So the first thing coming out of the gate you should be ready to is learn. Second is work hard, show up on time, do what you have said you will do. Be dependable, be accountable. That is the quality that we look for. Second, take initiative into things. Don't sit back and say, okay, what would you like me to do today and this week and this month? And stick to that. You should of course do that. That is par for course, right? That's the table stakes. But the ones who shine are the ones who say, okay, what do I do next? How can I help more than this? And spot an opportunity, raise their hands. Third is always be learning. If you think that your learning ends at the gates of your college, then you will not get far. In fact, your learning begins once you join the field, right? And you should be open to learning from everybody. So today, I learn from my team and all the way down to the person who has just come out of college and joined us 3 months ago, I learn from them every week, every month, something new. I learn from my peers who are in a different function sometimes, right? Some are technology leaders, some are business leaders, sales function. Very importantly, we learn from customers or the market, right? So you may have the shiniest object in the world, but if nobody wants that, that's the harshest lesson you learn, that you built the wrong object, right? So you learn from the customers and you learn from your competition, and you should be humble enough to learn from your competition and emulate them, right? Or figure out what they're
do
doing better
something
than
that
you.
is better than
Yes.
what they're doing.
So I think the ability to learn is your, again, a superpower, and ability to be humble about that learning, that you will not have all the answers, right? And time and again, when if you have that ego come in, that you know all the answers, you will be receiving the lessons softly or hard ways.
You will be.
I've been there, right? And that is the number one lesson that you take, that there's so much you can learn from people.
Yeah. You mentioned about the competition, you mentioned about the market. Business looks at it as, okay, we are delivering certain, we are solving some problem, and I am here and he's there, and we need to both compete for solving for the solution.
Yeah.
Whichever is the better one will emerge successful, right? And that's what the market is all about. But there is another market out there, which is the job market. And then there are two parts to this. And with Rajat also, when I was speaking, he mentioned there is one is to passion, like you love things and you're doing it for the love of the subject, for the love of what you do. And then there is that job market which is out there, right? And now what has happened is kids have been coding right from, like they've started with Scratch and stuff right in primary. Yes. And then by 7th standard, they would be introduced to Python. In certain schools, it's Java, in the higher classes, whatever. And there was a time 5 years back when a child asked me if I like coding and stuff. I like blindly go and do your computer science, right? Now what has happened is there is this wave of AI and saying that, like I can just type something in ChatGPT and it just generates the code for me. How do you look at this technology affecting the job market, or what should we be worried about? What should we?
So the simple answer there, and I'll expand a little bit on that, is the simple answer that is the way AI is shaping up. This is a resurgence of AI, right? AI is like 40, since the 40s it's been around. There's a new resurgence where it's becoming that these tools are going into the hands of every person, every function, every job role that has anything to do with digital or computers is changing, their roles are changing. And I would say that those who will use AI effectively are going to disrupt those who don't. Rather than saying AI will disrupt our jobs, it's other people. It's still not autonomous, but people who know how to use this effectively. You gave the example of ChatGPT. So it looks easy when people post things on X or social media or whatever, that I can do this with ChatGPT. But in the real world, it is the ability to do it consistently, correctly, over long periods of time, harnessing it effectively. That matters a lot. Mm-hmm. And that requires a skill. It's a new skill now. It's not just coding. So I think going back to that ability to pivot and learn. So if you're a doctor, or if you're a finance person, or you're a lawyer, or an advertising designer or something, every one of these functions, you've learned over time how to use digital tools, right? The doctors use computers today. Lawyers have their contracts in Word. Finance people use Excel. They used to use calculators before. They've learned Tally or whatever else. So this is another set of tools, and that is changing the world. And you have to figure out how to learn that, and there'll be opportunities that will make this easier to learn as well. Mm-hmm. And you just have to be taking those and using those tools.
How does one identify? Like, I can now go on Coursera, for example, learn a course, right? And then you'll go on LinkedIn and you look at certain profiles. They would have said, I've got this certification and that certification.
Yeah.
It is widely available, but it is available in large quantities. Many people are providing it.
Yeah.
How does one go about choosing the right one or the one that works?
Right. So I don't have a very good answer of how do you generally answer this question,
Yeah.
right? Because the answer will differ for different fields.
Yeah, but just the process of
Process. So you have to look at the reputation. There's a lot of search that goes on into that, right? So for example, if I'm in the field, I'm reading every day 100 sources of information. Certain themes will keep coming up. Like to give you an example, if you're in the space of machine learning and AI, once you spend 3-4 months reading this, some key actors will emerge that these are people who are credible, they are the leaders in this space. So if one of them starts a course, I know that this will be a valid course. It doesn't matter to me if it's the shiny thing being offered locally or not, because I've spent time reading and understanding and making my own opinion. So rather than going by the noise in the market, do spend some time reading
researching about it.
about in that field. So who's building the best tools, and those are the sources of your courses, right? And that's the way to go. But the other pivot I would say there is, right, certifications is one thing, and then your knowledge is one thing. Certifications are also a journey to acquiring knowledge, but they're also sometimes a tool to make yourself more attractive in a competitive job market, right? But outside of those paths, you should also, going back to learning, you should also be looking at sources of knowledge and learning which are independent of certifications, because that make you more effective, right? And then there are ways to figure that out and find those as well.
And largely, like you go on some social media platform today, the Instagram or Facebook, you would get these ads of courses being offered. So instead of going for those, you would do your own
I would absolutely
research.
not look at those ads.
Exactly.
Right? That is not the place to find information. You don't go and ask a barber if I need a haircut.
Exactly.
He's going to say yes.
Yeah.
Right? So you go and do your own search.
Yeah. So don't fall trap to those ads that come on.
Yes.
Yeah. So there are a couple of more questions that I want to ask. Let's just flip this page across. Yeah. So I have like very pointed questions. Like one is, are soft skills important in the tech industry?
Not just in the tech industry. In fact, great question, right? In fact, I don't have the full kind of like a comprehensive list, but absolutely. In fact, what we don't really get told about soft skills much. We are told about credentialing, certifications, degrees. But the number one thing after the first, even in the first part of your career, but especially more after the first 7-8 years of your career, the number of one thing that becomes important is one is how do you tell a story? Storytelling, right? Whether you are an entrepreneur trying to sell a product or a service, or you are working in a company, storytelling is important. And maybe it's not the number one, but in the top 3 or 4. If you're working in a company, whether you're a junior engineer or you're a senior executive, if you're not able to tell a story that communicates what you have done and how it matters in the bigger picture, you are at a disadvantage, right? So communicating and storytelling. If you are in the entrepreneurship side of things, even more critical that you are able to articulate the value proposition to your buyers and succeed. The other soft skill, I will go back to this, right? The ability to be constantly learning, super critical. The ability just to be punctual. I can't tell you how much you get noticed for being on time, being well groomed, right? Whether it's a proper haircut, having a proper shave, wearing proper clothes, the kind of confidence that other people looking at you, whether it's your customer or your boss or your peers, it matters. It is not about whether how fair your skin is and the makeup you put or what brand you're wearing. It is about are you taking care of yourself and the way you're dressing, and if you are systematic about that, it exudes the confidence. And then when you say you will do something by this time and doing it, this will put you in the top 3% of any job market. Most people don't do this. If they say, I will deliver this by Monday 5 p.m., and then you go 5:15 p.m., you're already slipping. If you deliver it at 4:30 p.m., you have won. So being out there and then being persistent in the face of failures or obstacles, right? These are the skills that matter. And on the more personal side of things, I think also learning about personal finance and just being able to manage. See, one of the reasons people get stuck into a problem is we are not taught the life skills about how to manage your bank account, how to think about money, how to save, how to invest, how to make sure that what you're spending every month is less than what you're earning. Right? Simple things like that. Right? There is no structured way of teaching it. It is left up to different parents to kind of figure it out. And if you don't do this right and you take on a lot of liabilities that are unnecessary, sometimes you have responsibilities, but other times they are unnecessary. You are boxing yourself, you're limiting your options, you're limiting your ability to pivot and change tracks, take on risks, things like that, right? And in the world that is ahead of us, there are even more uncertainties than what we have experienced and what our previous generation experienced. And the resiliency, pivoting, and the ability, flexibility to shift tracks is super critical to survive and thrive in a changing world. And this whole personal finance thing is as crucial as anything else in that matter.
That kind of gives you the confidence to go out
See,
there.
if you're burdened by all these liabilities, then you are stuck doing what you're doing. Then you are neither able to de-risk what is coming here because you can't, nor are you able to take an opportunity because it carries some new risk. Because you're having all these liabilities. So certain times you don't have a choice. But if you have a choice, live within your means, manage your finances. That's another superpower.
Basically, lack of data translating into less informed decisions about your life. So that was another question. What's a good criteria to make decisions, informed decisions? And I think you have kind of answered that in the...
Read a lot, talk to people, get ideas. Even today, I ask all kinds of questions to all kinds of people to learn, right? So don't think that you have all the answers. That's the number one thing you can do to yourself.
So are there some pointed tips to techies out there who are young techies or somebody who is studying computer science in Goa Engineering College or PCC or anywhere else? How do they keep themselves updated about what's happening, or how do they... Because right now, a guy who's going to college is just doing his courses, coming back home, maybe looking for some internship opportunities here and there. But how does the person kind of keep updated with what is happening globally? Are there some points?
So first of all, I'll also address why you have to do this, right? So unless you're once in a lifetime gifted individual who know how to do things, you learn by seeing and studying and reading and watching things, right? Even see, if you want to learn how to be a great director of a movie, you watch great directors who came before you. It would be foolish not to, right? Why would you just start and make all those mistakes and learn everything yourself over a longer period when you can just watch? So if you're a coder or if you're an engineer, you should be reading blogs that great engineers are writing about architectures, about software. You should be studying the code that they're writing. Like people in the Film Institute will watch a movie. People who want to become good writers will read great writers and what they have written. You should be studying other people's code. If you're not doing it, and you can't say that, okay, I work 9 to 6 and then I'm too tired and then watch Netflix, right? That's your time to do this. You have to hone your craft. We talk about, more recently, Surya Kumar Yadav taking that catch, for example, right? When asked, his coach said he's probably taken 150 catches in practice to be able to execute that catch in the final. Or Roberto Carlos took that famous the curved banana kick in the I think it was the World Cup, for Brazil, right? So he told that he had practiced that kick 1,000 times and probably thousands of times to be able to execute it. So if you're not honing your craft by reading and learning and practicing, you will not be effective in the 9 to 5 job.
Are there any specific platforms where they
I
can
personally, so again, this is limited to some aspects like business, technology, strategy. All these things are available quite well on many forums, but I have found that X, or earlier what was Twitter, right, is a huge source. Now, most people spend a lot of time on this app on random stuff. It can be a complete waste of your time. In fact, once you get sucked in, it's difficult if you're addicted to come out of it, right? It is also the number one source of phenomenally good education, because you have the most brilliant minds out there in technology today and strategy and business tweeting rather than on any other platform, including LinkedIn or anything else. And not only are they writing great things there, they are giving links to their long form, posts. They are giving links to their courses that they offer. You can actually ask questions and you can get an answer. You can be sitting in Fatorda and writing a message to one of the top computer scientists in the world, sitting in some other corner of the world, and getting an answer. That is the power of Twitter and X today, which is not there on any other forum because it's a public forum. So you don't need to know their phone number or their email address. I mean, maybe they will not answer, but maybe they will, right? And there are very good examples of this. And this actually brings me to one of my favorite things that I like to say, right? So we all know the story of Dronacharya and Eklavya, right? He was not allowed into the elite school, and because he didn't belong, it was only for the kings and so forth. And then when he learnt everything from outside, and then he was asked to cut off his thumb as a Guru Dakshina. So I don't think in today's world there can be any Eklavyas, because many of the knowledge bases of the world's best universities and best industries is available on the internet. All you need is a data plan and a phone, even if you're not having the money to buy a computer. Right? You can learn from MIT, Princeton, IIT. You can learn from the best Harvard Medical School. All of these things sitting here.
Education is free.
Education is available. Knowledge, degrees, certifications, things cost. But if you're really hungry for learning, it is all there. And it is not, money is not a bar. It's your only commitment that is
the time and your attention.
And your commitment to making sure that you're learning. That is the only thing holding you back.
You mentioned while talking about something about cold emails. So could you just shed some light on what a cold email is for the...
So cold outreach, right? Whether you are doing it on email or on X. So if you want to meet someone or you need an answer, just ask with whatever medium you have available, but keeping it professional. So don't hesitate that, if I write to so-and-so, this person is very big shot, he or she doesn't know me. Why will they answer? Why will they respond? Will they get annoyed? No, not if you're polite and to the point and just asking for help with insights. You may send 10 of these or 100 of these, and maybe 3 people may respond, right? But that's 3 more than you get
initially
when you had not, if you had not asked. If you don't ask, you get 0 responses. If you ask, maybe 3% is good enough for you. So that again helps. But it's very important that the more famous or accomplished people you're writing to, right? They are very busy people. They get a lot of these kind of emails. So it's very important to be on point, not try to be flowery or this and that, not try to be disingenuous, be focused. Say, here's what I read about what you wrote or what you did. This is very interesting to me. I'm trying to solve this. I either need this. Can you help me understand this, or can you guide me, point me somewhere, or can you help me by investing in my venture, or can I get a job with you? Whatever that ask is, being crisp about it and writing, just ask. What's the worst they will say? No, or they'll ignore you. That's okay. Very effective tool. And Twitter or X makes it that much easier, because you can just go and reply to their tweet and ask.
And then there is LinkedIn that you also mentioned.
Yes.
So at what point does a child growing up, or at what point does he make his account on LinkedIn?
So that's up to the individual. I think it's
a good time.
People today, if you see in Goa, right, kids are being entrepreneurs at like 10 years old. Right. So I think there is no age is no bar as long as you're responsible. But it's a great way to network. In fact, what I said about X and Twitter applies there also. LinkedIn. If somebody is written something and you give a very informed response to it, it's a great way of getting noticed. Right? Let's say there is somebody really big shot who has done something. They have written a post and you want to engage them. Whatever the forum may be, you study their thing and ask an informed question. You will stand out among all the replies that say, great job, or some other silly thing that is contradictory. A more informed, measured response gets noticed. So,
something that you're sharing out of your knowledge or...
Yes, or your understanding. And that sincere responses help get noticed. Yeah, maybe a small percentage, but that's all you need. You just need one shot to work. Right?
I am a teacher. I teach school students. Yeah. In an after school program also, I go to schools in the mornings. Any advice to me as a teacher teaching these young kids?
That's a difficult one.
Yeah, but as a part of a society, I wouldn't. I'm asking for an advice.
Yeah. So I think the few things that teachers who are really good, what I have experienced as a student, one is they don't take it as a one-way street. Right? They don't just say, I'm the teacher, you are the student. I'm going to teach, you listen, you write down. They spark a curiosity. And that is the most important outcome that you can get. That if you've sparked a curiosity, because you're not going to be with them for the rest of their life, right? But you're setting a foundation for what they will become. Second is give them the confidence that they can actually, sometimes the subject feels tough, but the confidence and reinforcement that they can actually learn and do whatever they set their mind to, right? And then give them the platform to think, analyze, research, build something, whatever it may be, and then show and speak for it with pride. So that kind of full rounded approach would be a great way to engage.
I have a few students who are doing that already. And there is Dhruv. Yeah. He's just come back from a line follower competition right across the street. Yeah. So he just came back. But there are others who have done things on their own. And I'm very proud of them.
Yeah.
Right?
Very nice.
Yeah. Yes, and that kind of brings me to the end of... Any advice to the students though?
I think
we should learn from them.
We've spoken enough. And again, take this for, as one data point. I mean, I don't have all the answers.
Obviously.
And I have tried to distill not only anecdotally what has happened, but underlying what worked, right? Which I think is generalizable for most situations and not just in tech. That's
even while studying, all those principles also apply for students as well.
Yeah,
it's not just a person who is in the workforce that it applies.
Yes, all of these applies when you're a student as well. These are simple life hacks.
Thank you very much for spending this time with us.
Thank you for having me. Because this is my community, so it is important to come and share thoughts. I have not done this type of thing. I was wondering, I'm very uncomfortable with the kind of intro you gave also. But the point is just to come and share.
That was ChatGPT, by the way.
Great. Excellent.
I just put
you asked ChatGPT about LinkedIn profile, you put in there and it.
I just put all the...
Great.
So I was like... So you were telling about storytelling, right?
Yeah.
So I just told it to give me a good narrative, made some changes, like 3-4 prompts, and that is what it did.
That's a great example of how you can leverage this technology.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So